But I know for me, I was very hard-headed. So even if I heard it, I'd feel a level of relatability and go, okay, I felt like that. But I'm going to do it my own way because I gotta go through it myself. So it took me a pretty dark descent into hopelessness and disconnection, and really just a loss of identity. Who am I? What am I doing? Why am I alone? Why isn't anything I do working at all? Everything I touch seems to just burn. And, years go on and nothing's changing, right? And even those role models and those people that we kind of looked up to, or I looked up to, pushing me away. Why are you doing that, Aaron? Why do you continue to do that? Why do you continue to bring shame on yourself, shame on others? You're not reaching your fullest potential. You're actually robbing yourself of existence, of life.
And Aaron, you're joining us this is the second podcast episode coming back, the Travis Cross podcast. It's got a name now, so that's kind of cool. And Aaron's joining us.
Hello.
Yeah, hey.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to our conversation. I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but we had an experience over the weekend too with Canada Day. We went down to Kelowna and he jumped in and helped film some streeter interviews. Guest host Aaron. Yeah. Aaron Fredborg. Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, that was something else. I mean, I wasn't too sure what I was signing up for there. To go down to Kelowna knowing there was going to be thousands of people on the pier and the boardwalk. I wasn't too sure. I was a little nervous because it's kind of out of my comfort zone quite a bit. But I was kind of thinking about my life too and how I kind of do that at work on a smaller scale. So I feel like there could be some transferable skills there. And I looked for guidance from you, and just as we were talking to people, and I look back and say, is there anything I missed? Is there anything else to keep it going? Because, so. Yeah.
What was the experience overall?
It was, aside from the nerves, and it was pretty good. I was happy that people kind of shared from their heart, and there was a lot of happy people there. There wasn't a lot of people that were, anti-Canada Day or let's mourn this day, as all this kind of stuff that some people could maybe go with. And I guess kind of learning a lot about family was a big thing, and love and enjoying the country and being grateful for living in Canada and seeing it as like an opportunity more than a burden to be Canadian, because I feel like we are fortunate and very privileged to live where we live. I know I can speak from myself in that one, right? Canada in general is just beautiful place. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, there's a couple things there. You ended up talking to this one fella on the boardwalk there near it, right? Where you asked the privilege question, and he paused and he's like, oh, I understand what privileged means, but you said, what'd you say? We're fortunate.
Fortunate. Yeah.
And then that resonated with him a bit more. And I think where we can go with this conversation tonight too is, around just communication, like talking, like sharing our stories. Like, do we have the freedom today to really share our voices, or does it feel really limited as to what we can say because there could be all these repercussions, and what does that mean for our relationships? What does that mean for the future if we're holding our tongue?
Yes.
Yeah. So when it goes to the privilege, what does that mean to you? Like, it's just a word of like, what does it mean to you?
Being privileged. Although most of my bills shell out and take about half of my money every month. It's hard to save, but I still get the luxury of waking up every day and going to my job after earning a degree and doing something I love and I'm very passionate about, and I can do it in relative safety, and I can go out and go to work every day, and I don't have to worry about violence or anything else like that, or wars going on in the town over or anything like that. I've got enough food in my fridge, and I've got enough money to buy more food. Even though the prices are pretty high, I can still eat what I want. I feel like some days I work to eat what I want. I can eat good food. I can just hang out and enjoy life like that. And I think my family's the same, and my friends are the same. We all have that equal opportunity to kind of keep on improving ourselves, right? And I know for today, I feel a lot of gratitude. And it's kind of something that I carry with me every day, is being grateful for what I have as opposed to what I don't have. I'm a social worker, counselor. It's my craft. So yeah, I don't make that much money, but I make enough.
So how did you get into the counseling? And if you want to just kind of give the Cole's notes, I think we talked about coming back on the podcast to go a little bit deeper, right? We're all going to share a little bit more of our stories and go a little bit deeper into who we are. But today we had such a big experience with the Canada Day event. So we're kind of covering what it's like to create media today in the world that we're in. And I think it's interesting, the career that you've got, and you talk to people, right? Yeah. And so how does that relate to what you're doing? But essentially, how did you get into what you're doing with counseling, and what do you do?
Well, I work with youth currently, young people, and been doing this, just finished up my 3rd year, and very proud of what I do. I'm kind of a odd fellow where I don't really consider myself a counselor, even though, a lot of my duties day to day would prove otherwise. But I really just got into counseling because I didn't really know what else to do with my life. I at some point a few years back, about 10 years ago, I figured that if I was going to change my life, I had to change my career, and I decided to pursue that goal if I was to ever stay healthy. And that was the big thing for me, was always, can I stay healthy? Can I stay sane with certain things? And as the years have gone on, I've just kind of continually just chased after working in support role for years, working overnights as a support worker while going to school, kind of moving into more, get my degree. Now I can go do counseling, addiction counseling, mental health stuff, work with youth in all areas. And that's kind of where I'm at now. And I'm just going to continue on that journey. I don't know where it's going to go. I have no idea. But I'm just,
Cool.
Yeah.
And so we talked a little bit about what we can't talk about.
See.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's an interesting thing, because sometimes you see people sending a tweet on Twitter, and then all of a sudden their employers, coming back after them, and it's like, no, I can't do that. And then they're gone. And, I don't know, it's an interesting place to be. I think there's certain respect that needs, or awareness that needs to happen when it comes to posting things on social media, especially because we are connected to whether it's the job we work for, or our relationships, our family, people around us, and how does that look back on us? And like, I had an early experience with when Facebook first came out. I got into this relationship. We had a breakup. I was really angry, and I vented my frustration on Facebook. And a friend texted me, sent me a private message right away, and just said, "Dude, everybody can see that." And that was a big wake up. It was like, oh my God. So I removed the message and completely changed the way that I post messages online, because that didn't occur to me that I forget, right? You make these connections online, and then over time it's like, oh yeah, so-and-so that I randomly met at some, work event or professional event. We connected on Facebook, or, colleagues that I've worked with, or friends from the past. And it's such a wide range of people that we meet in our lifetime. We can be connected through social media. And sometimes we have conversations with people one-on-one where it's like, I can relate to what they're saying, and maybe I use specific words, go into another setting with a different group of people, and maybe it's more professional, and have conversation with a different set of words. And
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So is it like the masks are coming off on social media, but we got to be careful of what we say, because people will end up seeing us in a whole different light and then judging, or it can actually be dangerous for employers. Like what?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't want to risk.
Did they teach you about that too?
Or absolutely. Yeah. Big time ethically and confidentiality. I'm pretty much behind a shroud of confidentiality with my work, and I honor that with the families and the students that I work with, and the young people and stuff. So there are a lot of things that I can't talk about. I can't talk about specific things, and I'd love to, but that's not my short stories to share. So the gender issues, I try to stay out. I'm very centrist. I like to observe what's going on. I like to get stories from both sides of the political spectrum. So I kind of just form my own opinion, and I'm very neutral. I think naturally I just take a neutral stance, and some might think it's passive, but I just really think I like to understand both sides of the story, and that helps me in my work as well. So I have to be careful with confidential. Like I can't share story. I can't talk about the clients I've worked with, service users or students or anybody in specifics. There's been a lot over the years. You know, I've been doing this for about 9 years now, in the field, right? And so yeah, just kind of stuff like that. I just like to yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it like people's stories, they get that you can't share and talk about any of that kind of thing around all the because I can hear people that watch this and the hot topic issues that people keep talking about. From my point of view, there's not a lot of coming together to have shared conversations about what's happening. You mentioned the trans thing a little bit. We won't get into the details. We don't want to make it all divisive but the idea of talking about topics that are trending and then staying away from those topics when maybe we need to break down some of those topics or find a way to come. What's your take on that? Like, should we be coming back together as Canadians, as a country, as a community to have difficult conversations, or it's okay, it'll sort itself out, or you know, like I don't know, what do you think?
I think it'll sort itself out in the coming generations, just like race relations in the back is kind of in the past has kind of come about, you know, more acceptance around certain people. And with the gender stuff, it's it's a tough one, you know. And I don't know, I like to think that I would have those conversations more on closed doors, but I find myself not really critiquing that as much. More accepting of people, right? In general, I think is the most important thing. And I just think people try to get their opinions, which are biased, in there more because they want it done their way, or they want it seen through this lens that way. And I just think that's unfair. And I'm in a privileged spot where I can listen to youth and listen to what they want. And far from an adult's opinion, right? And I think that's the best thing. And maybe not enough clout and respect is given to the youth yet. But one day they'll be adults, and then their kids will challenge something else again. And things that we go through today, I think, will kind of work themselves out. I just don't think I'm in the place to have a publicly open conversation about certain things. I think it would, I just don't think that's the right place for me to talk about it. I barely can get behind the camera as is. I'm pretty shy. This is all a new experience to me. So yeah.
Let's talk about that, this new experience. What prompted you to actually jump into it and start doing, like, you helped out a ton when we went to Kelowna, and I had to go do these streeters again, and then just was doing a mic check and pointed the camera at you and you started asking questions, and it's like, right on, man, let's do this.
I don't know. I don't know. We were talking about, I don't even know how it really came about. I think we're at Evan and Sam's house, and it's like, hey, we're going to go to Kelowna. And then you're like, oh, I think I'm going to bring my camera. And then I was like, oh, whatever. And then I might have seen you before Canada Day, and we kind of chatted about it. Like, oh, I'm going to bring my camera. And then at some point you had asked me, and instead of me saying no and giving you an excuse as to why I couldn't do it, which sometimes I can do, right? I just kind of went with it. I was feeling pretty good that day. I was a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, you know, but it went pretty good. And I think we had a good idea. I think in my head, I knew kind of what I wanted to ask and keep it simple with it, right? And
yeah. And I mean, would you do it again?
I'd do it again. Yeah. Yeah, I'd definitely do it again for sure. And be a little bit more prepared next time, I think.
Yeah.
And
what would you say to somebody who hasn't done it yet and maybe they will? Because I feel like this is the path that we're on to get more new creators, more citizen journalists, people out there asking each other we'll have the technology these days. So now it's just a matter of how do we do it so that it can bring the essence of broadcasting and what that means to bring our communities back together. So in that experience that you had, looking back at that, what would you share with somebody who is now going to be in your shoes and they're having their first experience with it?
I would definitely say find something that you're kind of passionate about, something that's comes easy with you. And for me, I mean, Canada, that's such a broad topic for me. And, you know, I love where I live. You know, I'm a little bit ashamed of our past, but I understand the times were the times, you know, and what was going on was going on. I mean, so I was kind of seeing, I guess I had that, yeah, I guess I had that kind of ability to see both sides and be ready for whatever people were going to say. But in turn, I also knew I was comfortable enough with my own knowledge to be able to go against anything that came out of their mouths and to change it around and not get offended, take a neutral stance, which I'm pretty good at most of the time. Most of the time. Yeah. So.
And you had no serious confrontations when you're out there?
Nothing serious. No. I'm just thinking back at all the faces and all the people. Everybody was pretty happy, you know, for the most part.
Yeah. It was a bit of it wasn't an accurate cross-section of all of Canada, though. No. It's people that came out to celebrate, and Kelowna's a pretty wealthy city, so
yeah,
you can kind of get a sense of that. But generally, it seemed successful, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely certain groups of people were down there, you know, like it was kind of favored a little bit more to family environment, you know, wealthy people for sure. But I mean, it's a good place to start, you know. I mean, if we would have went down to Rutland or downtown Kelowna and started asking people, we might have got different responses, different parts, right?
And that's one of the goals of doing a streeter. I tried spelling streeter on my phone and it came out with a spell check. Like it doesn't even know the word.
Yeah.
Do you know what a streeter is?
No, I don't.
Okay. So it's maybe not common language. We talked about it in school. Streeters, the news would go out and ask a series of questions to random people and get responses. And then when you edit it together, you get one question with multiple responses from multiple people, and you get a kind of a cross section of Canadians and what their thoughts are around it. So that's a streeter style interview. And to do it properly, you would go out to a variety of places. You wouldn't just stand in front of the local college, right? And then that's your selection, because students have a particular point of view on the world and how it works. They'd vote for a specific person. They want to spend money a specific way. You go stand outside of a retirement home, you're going to get a whole different set of answers.
Yeah.
You go stand out front of City Hall, you're going to get different answers. You go, downtown at 8 o'clock at night versus 6 o'clock in the morning, you're going to get different answers, right? So you try to just get a lot of different, move around and get a variety of thoughts and ideas of what's going on. So we'll explore the streeters a little bit more in the weeks to come, but that was a good experience with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I mean, that was the first thing I've done anything like that behind a camera, in front of a camera, since university. And even then, I think I remember a few video projects where I had to interview people and hour-long counseling sessions and look at myself and what do I sound like? What am I asking? You know, and I think those were the only other times I'd been on camera. Yeah.
Right on.
That's all happened within a few days. And then that was a few years ago. So.
Yeah. So what's your background? What's your heritage? Like you said, you were born in Canada. Now, and what's your kind of take on Canada? Like the flag, national identity, and
well, I'm a Anishinaabe Metis. I've got some Scandinavian. One of my grandfathers came over from Sweden at some point. He had married my grandma, who's Cree, Swampy Cree and Scottish. So, you know, they gave birth to my dad, who's all the above, who's identifies as Metis, he's got his Metis card and all that stuff. And then, you know, my mom's side, I got some family who've come from Iceland, and my grandfather was from Ireland. So he was an Irishman who came over, who met my grandma. She was French, Icelandic, and Anishinaabe. So both of my grandmothers are both of First Nation descent, Canada, and both of my grandfathers are of settler descent, and that made me. So I'm identify as Anishinaabe Métis. I mean, I could add all the European counterparts in there as well, but I'm proud to be from both places. You know, I'm not ashamed of being a settler. I'm not ashamed of being First Nation or Indigenous. That's who I am, and those are some of the biggest tools I have today, right? And yeah, I'm pretty proud of. What else did you ask?
What do you think of national identity and the flag? Yeah.
Yeah. So knowing what I know, being a quote unquote, I don't want to say half breed, but you know what I mean?
Does that ever
Mixed blood.
come up, or like even in family, like are there certain words to use and not use, or it can be offensive, or is it like about?
No, we kind of just say native, native. I never use the word Indian. I always use the word native or indigenous, but mainly it's native in our family. It's the native side and this and that, right? As for identity, I've come to kind of know who I am ancestrally in the last couple of years and what it means. Because for the longest time, I didn't understand. I didn't quite fit in. Like being Métis, being in the middle, you kind of you're kind of on the cusp of both worlds.
Mm.
You get the Canadian side, the settler side, and then you get the First Nation side on reserve, off reserve, urban natives. And I always felt kind of in the middle, right? Because I'm of mixed, and they always said, I can't remember who, but I'd learned that Métis are the most oppressed Indigenous group in society because we don't know where we belong.
Mm.
We don't have any land. I was born in Winnipeg, St. Boniface Hospital. I grew up in Selkirk, so about, 15, 20 kilometers north of Winnipeg. So that's the land of the Métis people. We don't have land. There's no land there. Winnipeg itself arguably could be one big reserve. But
why do you say the land of the Métis people then? Where does that concept come from?
So it's supposed to be of the Red River Colony. Yeah, the land of the Métis people. They had a lot of hunting rights for buffalo there. 2 million strong buffalo, and they'd hunt and the sustenance that they lived, and they hunted one at a time, and they were the keepers of the great buffalo herds, Métis people, so they'd follow them around, and I always thought that was pretty cool. You don't see many buffalo there now, but massive plains, floodplain south of the city, west of the city, it's all open country. But in knowing that my people, part of them have come from there, from the land of the Métis people, from the Red River Colony, from Winnipeg, it gives me a lot of pride, especially living in British Columbia now. I feel kind of unique in the sense, I do miss home, but I also feel unique in the sense that I know enough about my ancestry and I'm proud of it, that I've been able to use it, and to the point where I work with Indigenous peoples now. And I help them form their own identity too, right? And I share with them, what happened to me, and not always. I don't always have to make it about myself, right? And I kind of explore with them. And as it comes to being Indigenous in Canada, it's a hard thing. For me, I'm privileged. I'm what they call white passing. I can be, and some people don't see it as that, right? I've gotten many racial slurs over the year. People call me chief, and just stuff like that. Subtle stuff, subtle remarks. And I'm just kind of like, I think about later and I go, holy, like that's kind of disgusting. Right. And I'm not ashamed of that. I grew up in Manitoba, predominantly Indigenous people, right? Very accepting for the most part, at least where I grew up. We're all of mixed blood there. Like all my buddies growing up, we're all mixed. I had some friends grew up on the reserve and outside of town, and grew up with them in Selkirk, and we just didn't really think about it that much. It's either you're traditional into your Indigenous ways, or you weren't. And I wasn't raised like that. Like I didn't go dancing. I didn't go, I didn't participate in ceremony that much. I'm kind of in the process of reclaiming that. Personally, right? I'm doing sweats and smudge ceremonies now and helping the next generation of Indigenous youth. And that's kind of that's where I'm in. I love it. But personally, I'm not ashamed of being Canadian. I think it's a great country. I think it's a great concept. Yeah, sure, it's an offshoot of a British colonial system, right? We all know that. And then as I've got educated in post-secondary over the last couple of years, I really was able to see both sides. I was able to see what the British were doing and how they conquered most of the world along the seas, in China and Africa and, the States and Canada. And it's not a pass to say that what they did was justified, but it was also a sign of the times too, right? It's like, for survival, let's go conquer, what the unknown was. And I think back to the prairies and British Columbia 200 years ago, and what life would have been like with no roads, no supermarkets. You know, you got your boat and you got whatever you got on you, and you got to find food out in the bush. You don't know where you're going. There's mountains everywhere. There's trees everywhere. There's wildlife everywhere. You know, what are you going to do? So back then it just seemed like such a survival thing. And I know, you know, I know that's where my ancestors come from as well, part of them, you know. And I like to try to think that people can also see that too, where, you know, if your family's been here for generations, that at some point, you know, life back then with Hudson Bay Company or explorers here in BC, or what's the other one there? Northwest Company was a big one, did a lot of trading from the Atlantic into Manitoba and out into the prairies, right? So I don't believe in hanging the flag upside down, Canadian flag. I wouldn't say I'm a big super patriot, you know, but I respect the country. I respect the model. And I've seen, yeah.
Oh, I got another question for you then.
Sure.
What's your take on reconciliation? I mean, that's been a big word over the last little bit. Is it, did you see it happening? Is it a positive thing? Is there much talk about it or even the meaning of it? What?
Reconciliation.
Yeah.
Big one. It's a tough one too. I mean, it's, at a micro level, reconciliation can be done. But I think more, when I think of reconciliation, I think getting the land back. And I think that's the big concept. And that itself might be difficult to reclaim. And I just wish the two could work together, right? And that's the big thing. I mean, we're people, you know. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Anything that you would suggest that would be a good conversation or questions to ask with other Indigenous and even like what's the we're all Canadians now. If you've been born here, I suppose. Otherwise, you're a settler. Is that that would be a correct way of looking at it?
Depends who you ask. Yeah. I know I will say of settler ancestry, meaning that it come from Europe, Northern Europe, anywhere else. It's just it's the term used to describe white people, basically. The white side, the Caucasian side, I should say, right? Yeah.
So not like when we were out on the boardwalk there in Kelowna talking to that Indian family. They're from India. They said we're Indian, but we're also Canadian now.
Yeah.
And so if somebody's recently moved here or they're thinking of moving here, they're not necessarily a settler. That's a different term. Or they're immigrant, I suppose.
Yeah, I would think so. I still think they could considerably be a settler in terms, but I feel like that term kind of is kind of aimed at a certain group.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
19th century white people.
Yeah. And I feel like it's just more of a more of a appropriate way of saying it. I know I learned it in university, and before that I know the settlers and stuff were a big thing in Canada, and we knew they came from all over the place, but mainly Europe. They settled in certain places, and
yeah. How does it feel having conversations like this? Like I'm wondering if I feel like in some ways it's important for future generations to at least take the time now to have difficult conversations and get through there is such chaos right now. That's what I'm feeling around language and things that we can say, that we can't say. I don't want to offend anybody, but now, and history books are changing and definitions are changing. And it's like, how do we navigate the world that we live in today?
I don't know. Kind of getting a little too sensitive out there, but I think it's just become so polarized in the last couple of years. It's like we got nothing else to talk about, so we're kind of turning on each other a bit.
Yeah, I'd hope that conversations like this and through podcasting, we can start to at least open up our hearts and vulnerability to each other.
Yeah.
Right. It takes a bit of a risk to do this with the internet, knowing that, people can watch and listen and, still being aware of our words, but wanting to just, I think the willingness goes a long way, because we talked a little bit about the alt-right movement before this. And there was a point where I was trying to share some videos with my dad that I was seeing online, and he just said, "Oh, that's all alt-right stuff." And he wouldn't even look at it. I had never heard the term. all right. So I went online and looked it up, and Wikipedia came up, and I thought that's really interesting. My dad watches a lot of television, so at some point he had heard this term alt right, and then I started having conversations with people around things on the internet, but it felt like, oh, that came from the internet. Like, you can't be too careful about the internet. And I thought, wait a minute. Even like I go on the internet to see Global and CBC, they're on the internet too. So what's wrong with the internet? Like is it just television approved content? But that's a whole other
that's
thing.
the thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to become labeled as like any content that gets created out there, but at the same time there is a lack of validation, I think, with content online, and it's become a little bit difficult. As somebody who went to broadcasting and journalism school, and you're learning about trying to validate and have some facts, like you got to go out and talk to people, right? You mentioned the youth, and the thought came to mind to go and talk to the youth. Bring some youth onto the podcast and let them have a voice, because we can't speak for everybody. We can just share our own experiences, right? And then that can help others be guided in their own journey or direction, or maybe feel like they're not alone, or maybe we can talk about some difficult things without prejudicing anybody or putting people down or judging anybody. That feels important. So what would you like to well, I guess how does it feel? How does it feel to be on a podcast and to open up and to just, does it feel like you're being vulnerable? Does it feel like, or
very much so? Yeah. Yeah. Some questions allow me to think a little bit more, and I'm just kind of trying to feeling authentic about it, and I know I got a headset on. I know I'm sitting here talking to you, which is not, not as organic as usually most conversations I have, right? And usually sitting side by side or driving or walking or sitting in a room having that chat with, right? So this is totally new for me. And I always like to go back to what you said there about the media and stuff. And I was always taught too, it's like you gotta not listen to everything you hear, but you can also critique everything you hear. So in my mind, that's what I was taught in school, is always critique what you hear. Not everything is factual. You got to remember who owns the media companies and what are their beliefs. And if you look at certain things, then if you look at, notTV and stuff like that, at its core, right? And like, what do these people actually believe? Because what we're trying to do is trying to give a both sides view of things, and not taking one side over the other, and just trying to stay neutral. At least that's what I'm trying to do. And I may swing a little bit more left at times, but it's all good. And just the liberal values from my family, right? But in saying that too, there's also a lot of conservative value in my family. So, it's kind of a weird thing, but critique everything, and we'll grow. And I think getting the youth involved, talking to youth, whoever they may be, they're going to be the voice, and they're going to be the voice for the next generation. When we're old, wrinkled, married, and hopefully with a bunch of grandchildren, they're going to be running the show, and life's going to look a lot different for them. And I think the problems that we have today they'll sort themselves out with some work, and including the next generation who will hit it with a different mindset than we can. I mean, I like to think.
Wow. I like that a lot, actually. And, another friend, he's teaching me about respect for elders, right? And there's this point in life where I got to stop trying to do everything for myself, and to, do everything for just like living life the way I want to live, to try and build it up, to have the experiences I want to have, and starting to let go and look at the kids and think, wait a minute, it really is, like you just put it, it's their future. They're going to be, picking up the ball and rolling with it.
Yeah, it's a weird state in my life now where, I'm 34 years old. I'm getting to that, I don't know what, still a young adult, but I'm definitely not a youth. I haven't been a youth for a lot of years, but now I'm working with the next generation, right? And talking to them, and I'm being that guide. Like somebody was a guide for me many, many years ago, right? And I've always had teachers in my life. And, I think about all the teachers that I've had in my life that have gotten me through some tough times, celebrated some good times, challenged my thinking, and allowed me to grow past my own biased beliefs or about myself or the world or the people. And I'm like, I get the opportunity to potentially be one of those people that might change the course of their lives and their next generation of kids, right? Or youth, or whoever I really come into contact with. So I think a lot more deeper these days about the relationships and the impacts that I can have on people, just because I've seen a lot of good things out there. I've seen a lot of miracles, and I've seen a lot of missed opportunities for people, including myself. But yeah.
What would you say to the youth that you've learned when it comes to having conversations, not keeping things in, and or looking at the world and maybe realizing that at some point down the road, your view of the world's going to change? Yeah, my grandfather would say between the ages of 16 and 26, it's amazing how much your parents learn, right? And it's like, we go through so much change ourselves that, like, when we're younger, we know everything. Yeah. And then as we get a little bit older, we realize, okay, maybe I didn't know everything. Maybe my parents actually do know stuff instead of thinking, no, they don't know anything. I'm right, they're wrong. Right. But it takes time. And what would you say to the youth about, how to approach life, especially in the world that we live in now? Or what would you start to share 20 years from now? You might have even more wisdom to share.
The world doesn't owe you nothing. Got to earn it. Got to go with something that you're semi-passionate about or semi-enjoy or have an interest in, and run with it. And know that if that fails, because it might, backup plan. But backup plan when the thing fails so you can move on. Because for me, I went through a lot of phases in my life that, trades, oil and gas, like all these big ventures, club promoter, this and that. Like I always wanted to be these different things, and none of them ever really worked out. But I worked at it, trying to work out, and then I felt that not success, failure. It's a pain. And I grew and you sit back and you analyze, okay, what can I learn about this? How can I take this into the next thing that I do? How can I get stronger? But not giving up on things and just working hard, having a good work ethic, whatever it may be. And as you were speaking to earlier, 16 to 26, listening to your parents, but listening to healthy people who have the best intentions for you. And you're going to be the only one who can judge that. That can go either way, but listening to people that you semi-respect or you like what they have. And it's not in the sense of, oh, you got a nice car, you got a nice house, oh, you got great tattoos, oh, this, that. How do they treat people when no one's watching? What kind of character are they? Do they love their self? Do they love themselves? Do they speak highly of their friends and family? All those characteristics that are hidden to the world that are very important. And just keep going for it. Don't stop.
Did you have role models when you were growing up?
I did, yeah. I had some positive ones and I had some not so positive ones, but what comes to mind really is a lot of family, right? My dad, love my dad, hardworking guy, old school, black and white sometimes, but he's a good man. And he always mirrored for me what it takes to provide and to love and to work hard, and the small things around the house: cut the grass, take the garbage out, clean up your room. None of that stuff I seen. Why do I gotta do this? It doesn't make any sense. Why I gotta do this stuff? You're just telling me to do it. But what he's doing is he's teaching me responsibility and accountability for my things and the communal things of the house. Take care of others, because this little impact that you have, taking the garbage out, collecting it from all the bins in the house, helps everybody. Stops the trash from overflowing. Stops from getting stinky, or whatever it may be. So he was always there, and he still is. I still love the man. Get to see him in a couple of days. But I always found too, there was a lot of people there that I kind of looked up to that, didn't have the best interest in hand for me. For a lot of years, I found salvation in partying and self-destructive behavior. So with that came a different lifestyle. Kind of went away from, what Dad was doing, right? Or what my grandma was doing, was mirroring the same thing, right? And my interest kind of changed quite a bit, actually, for a lot of years, into kind of looking outward, the family, for people to follow. Because I wasn't my own leader. I just felt like, and that's the big thing too. Another thing, go to the youth would be try to be your own leader, get people to follow you or just join you, you know, and in a positive way. And for me, I was a follower for a lot of years because I didn't know who I was. I didn't have an identity. What does it mean to be Aaron? What does it mean to be Indigenous? What does it mean to this? What does it mean that? Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad now, you know, since I've gotten on a better path in life, you know, in the last 10 years or so, a lot of my mentors come, who have a lot of similar interests to me now. You know, a lot of us just want to be okay with being ourselves, you know, and okay with life and just enjoying life, absent, substances, you know, all that stuff, right? And that was a big thing. It's a beautiful world, man. Beautiful world. It feels good. Some days it doesn't feel like it's real, though, you know? It's like, wow, what the heck is going on? Like, is this so good? Why is this so good?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even feel real, you know? Man, the mountains look beautiful today. Wow. The sun, like, boom. It's like, I get to exist. 34 years old when reaching 25 was not 22, 20. I mean, was a long time ago, but there was very hard times back then. And I didn't think I'd see, you know, I didn't see where I'm today. So I feel like I always tell people I'm on borrowed time. I don't tell a lot of people that, but I guess I'm telling everybody now, but borrowed time. Because there was a lot of things that that I shouldn't have got through, and I did. And, you know, and those role models always stood there and waited and watched.
Mm.
And when he's ready, he's ready. He's ready to change. And I can sit here today and talk. And as the conversation goes on, I feel the authenticity grow. I'm not stumbling over my words. My mind's starting to slow down despite the cold brew from Starbucks. I'm still able to just kind of formulate my thoughts quite a bit and to acknowledge all those role models out there, right? Because, you know, creator comes in the form of skin, and he always has. And my teacher has always come in the form of skin, meaning they come as people, or nature, but people in general. I mean, I've changed the course of my life, so. Yeah.
Wow. And in that changing the course of your life, has there been, I guess to phrase it as a question, and for any youth watching or anybody for that matter that is maybe an emotional block, when did you stop running and what does it take to connect with? Was it people or creator or like what? I don't know. How do you prioritize that? And does it just take a really big, tough lesson that kind of shakes us to our core and then it moves on? Or can people learn from our stories that they don't have to go through the same struggles?
I think you can. I think you can relate to the stories. But I know for me, I was very hard-headed. So even if I heard it, I'd feel a level of relatability and go, okay, I felt like that. But I'm going to do it my own way because I gotta go through it myself. So it took me a pretty dark descent into hopelessness and disconnection, and really just a loss of identity. Who am I? What am I doing? Why am I alone? Why isn't anything I do working at all? Everything I touch seems to just burn. And, you know, years go on and nothing's changing, right? And even those role models and those people that we kind of looked up to, or I looked up to, pushing me away. Why are you doing that, Aaron? Why do you continue to do that? Why do you continue to bring shame on yourself, shame on others? You're not reaching your fullest potential. You're actually robbing yourself of existence, of life. And it took, I know for me to change my life, it took a series of family members to come together to remind me how much I'm loved despite what I'm doing. To say, hey, we got an opportunity for you. We're really worried about you. What do you think about this? And I'd beaten myself down and was at a broken place in my life where I would have done anything. And I did. And I had a little piece of hope in me. And that hope today is still there. And it's, you know, it's been a lot of years. But I can still, even talking about it, I can still feel it today. I can still see it today, the last days when I decided to make a big change in my life. And just the feelings of, oh man, this could be over. You know, the way I'm feeling now could be over. I could maybe have a crack at it. And back then I had nothing, man. I had nothing, absolutely nothing. I didn't even have self-respect. I didn't enjoy who I was. You know, I had no education. I had no education on self-help tools to better myself. I was a blank slate. I was ready. I was ready to go, man. I was ready to do something. And that was divine intervention, because there was somebody there in those final days that was keeping me afloat, keeping me well-fed, right? Keeping the demons at the door, right? And when I got into where I got to, I went through a lot of pain for about 3 weeks, and I got it all out, and I started to see, and I started to feel, and I started to go, man, I'm in British Columbia. This isn't, at the time, you know, winter on the prairies, right? I just spent just north of Winnipeg, in January, February, March, descending down the hill, basically, you know, and it was cold, and there was probably about 8 inches of ice on the roads, and it was just a very harsh place to wake up into the Okanagan Shuswap and go, holy crap, I've arrived. All right. And I haven't looked back since. I've had some tough times, very tough times, yeah. And yeah.
What were some of the feelings that you had before you got through to the other side, the deep state of the anguish that you're living in?
Oh, gosh. Constant anxiety, constant fear of running out, constant fear of enemies, whether they were real or not, in my mind. Loneliness, an absolute disgust of shame. How did I let it get this bad? How have I let these many people down? How have I let myself down? I just felt like a big failure. I couldn't look you in the eye. I just wanted to stay in the shadows and stay up all night, sleep all day. It was a pretty sad state to be. I was very negative, believe it or not, at that time. Very negative. And that was kind of my whole life, was just bashing, was gossiping, was jealous, was this and that, and complete opposite of what I am today, right? And yeah, those were some pretty dark feelings that I had there. Basically, like all the ideas that you have as a young person, you know, like maybe I'll get married, maybe I'll find the love of my life, maybe I'll have some kids, maybe I'll have a good job, good career. I'd be able to go home to a good, you know, have a great dog, you know, or something. None of that was even remotely possible at that point, right? And I always wanted that. I always wanted to be a father. I always wanted to have my own family, because I'd seen, it was mirrored to me that it's possible, and this is normal to me. And back then I had no hope. I was very self-absorbed and selfish. You know, I just kind of lived in my own little world, and if you happened to come in, it was because you had something I wanted. And that's no way to live. No, that's not a good way to live.
Oh, and then when it changed, what are you feeling today?
Whew. What do I feel today, hey? I feel like I've been unlocked from a self-put prison, where I can do anything I want. Anything I want. And that's so overwhelming some days, and then I end up doing nothing, because I'm like, man, I don't even know what to do. You know, I could do this, could do that, could do this. For the podcast here, it's been a lot of growth. Just talking to myself and talking to you, hearing myself in the mic, saying these things, saying what I think. I don't know. Today I just feel like I'm safe, you know, and I got some texts from some buddies I grew up with, and, you know, I talked to a buddy there, that I grew up, I've known my whole life, texted me and was supporting me with some stuff that I was going through. And another friend reached out this morning and just say, hey man, you know what, when you're back in Manitoba, give me a call, we'll hang out. And I'm just like, whoa, like, you know, these people I'd pushed away all those years ago want to be part of my life. It's a privilege, and I feel like a sense of community today, sense of, belonging, which I've never really had before. I've had falsehoods of belonging where I was like, oh, I'm with this group of people. This is who I am. We all dress and talk the same, or this, and we all use things the same, or party the same. I mean, but today I just feel like, hey, it's okay to be who you are. You know, and I look at myself and, you know, I'm just proud. I'm proud of who I am. Yeah. Yeah. And to see myself on the video you showed me the other day, that was pretty funny, man. Like that was, I mean, that, you know, and in a bad headspace, I'd been like, oh, you sound like an idiot. You shouldn't have said that. You got too much chest hair hanging out there. Like button up your shirt, like all this critiquing. Right. And that's how most of my life was, over critiquing, over analyzing myself constantly. Just cut myself down, selling myself short. Don't know where all that came into, but I just fed into it. And I don't have that today. I don't have any of that, you know.
Wow. Yeah, I relate to that completely. There's times I've been trying to get this podcast going and I get so many episodes in and I get all self-critical and, you know, beat myself up, and then that's the end of it.
You're doing great so far. I think great questions.
I appreciate that, Aaron. Yeah, no, that means a lot. Thank you. And we won't keep you for too much longer today. When you get back from Manitoba, come back. Let's dig in a little bit more into a longer format. I'm realizing there is value in sitting down doing a podcast that's longer, like 2-3 hours to record, because then you kind of get below the initial anxiety of it and start to get real with the questions. And I find a lot of value when I listen to other podcasts that are longer form. I'm learning a lot. It reminds me of good, what I think of when I think of Canadian content, which is intellectual thinkers thinking and sharing their experiences, and then allowing us to look at the world in a new light and learn from it and grow from it and learn from people who have walked the path before us and consider where we're going. Yes. So I really appreciate the conversation today.
Thank you.
And yeah, go for it.
Thanks for the opportunity. I've always been one to, I think my personality is a little bit more reserved. I'm a little bit more wait for invitation. I'm a little bit more like, don't talk about yourself, you know, only talk when responded to, kind of thing. I'm not an over big salesman like that, although, you know, some of my family members are pretty business savvy and sales savvy. I never really got that. I'm kind of more, so this opportunity with you here, Travis, has been just going out and talking to people. Talking to yourself is totally something that's totally out of my comfort zone. Believe me, it's just totally. And it's felt pretty comfortable as we've gone on too, and it's been good. So thank you for that.
Cool. Yeah, it means a lot to me too, just to get back into it and remember the little things about broadcasting and how do we make it a little bit better, but not getting so hung up. Yep. Like getting to talk to Mike last week, just going with it. Let the authenticity come out. Don't worry about the little perfectionisms, because that's where I get hung up too, and then think, I can't put this out here because this isn't good. That isn't good. I'm not wearing a hat. Doesn't matter, right? I'm going to ask you, so please, anybody sticks around, I'm just going to say this straight to anybody watching. We'll play the Canada Day interviews that Aaron and I did right after this. So you got to watch this and then you can get to that. And it's kind of like bonus content. So stick around and watch that. We got to set it up a little bit about the experience, and hope you enjoy. I'm going to ask Aaron if you got any final thoughts for today.
Final thoughts. Yeah. I don't know.
Covered a lot too, right? We talked a little bit about the youth, a little bit about Indigenous culture in Canada and what we can and cannot talk about. And yeah.
I would say just, you know, walk with grace, walk in beauty, and work with others is a big thing. You know, listen to others. It's usually the quiet ones that have the most to say. But in general, people is just, you know, be kind to each other. You give yourself some space, allow yourself to grow and to challenge yourself and to be easy with yourself too. Coming from someone who, you know, has historically kicked the shit out of himself for most of his life, was recently kind of broken away from that and is not so hard and on himself and works with others. You know, just be easy. Be easy. And it's okay to fail sometimes. And it's okay when things don't go our way, right? And when things do fall apart, whatever that may be, in any corner of our life, that we can always pick ourselves up and move on. And it'll be okay, you know, just for today. And be proud of who you are and your identity. And don't have any white guilt. Don't have any brown guilt. We're all human. It's very important. I've heard that. I've heard that a number of times from people. Well, I've got white guilt. I've got this. I got that. I'm just like, it's too bad. Don't make it about yourself. Do what you can today. Give back. Help. Be the change you want to see in the universe and in the world. As an old quote used to say, I can't remember who said it, Gandhi maybe, but treat people. That's the change. The way you treat people and treat yourself. So, all my relations, watch out for me.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Yep.
Much love, brother. It's good to have you around.
Thanks, bro. How do you celebrate being Canadian every day? What does it mean to live in Canada, in Okanagan, in the Okanagan and Shuswap? What do you think about the history of Canada? But that one could set a lot of people off. What do you think about British colonial rule since 1876 and its impact all over the world? All that stuff. So that's what we're going to explore here today with some random people out there in the world. Hopefully we don't get punched. Hopefully we don't get spit on, but you never know. You just never know what's going to come out of people's mouths.
I don't know if it's too windy or not, but we'll see.
So we're making a little video for notTV. It's just a little like grassroots TV, just talking about what Canada Day means.
What Canada Day means?
Yeah.
It means family.
Family.
You spend time with family. You gotta enjoy it. It's like my dad always said, life is like a poker game. You get the hands that are dealt to you, whether you're gonna win or lose. And that's me. You only live once, and that's how I live my days. Because you never know when your time's coming, right? You just got to go out and enjoy it.
What do you think about, I'm Indigenous, I'm Anishinaabe. Do you see a division there between being First Nation and being Canadian?
It's like we're all one on days like this. Everybody comes out to enjoy and have fun together. And it should be like that every day, not just on days like holidays or long weekends like this. It should be every day where everybody gets along and lives together. It's like, my dad always says, everybody bleeds the same. We all bleed the same blood, just different colors.
We're sitting here down in Kelowna, down by City Park, just chilling, talking to people. We come across two people here. We're just trying to figure out, and we'll bring them over.
I was coming here to see some fireworks, but instead got a windstorm right now, so stay tuned.
Fair. Thank you very much for all that. We got a little insight here from some locals, and we appreciate that. We'll continue on in our little journey here and keep the conversation going today, trying to keep it positive, trying to keep it light. It can get pretty dark out there in the dark world, so we'll do what we can. And thank you, Mr. Cameraman, and the fellow people here today. Try to keep it entertaining for you folks, maybe learn a few things or two about what it is to be Canadian. Peace. Hey, how's it going? My name's Aaron. Could I ask you a few questions about Canada? No? Okay, thank you. Hey, how's it going today? Good. I was hoping I could ask you a few questions about Canada.
A few questions about Canada?
Yeah, we're just doing a little thing for notTV. Oh, okay. Thank you. We tried again. 0 for 4.
Stick around, Aaron. You'll get it.
Keep coming back, buddy.
So to do a proper streeter, then we need a variety of people.
Yes.
How's it going? We're trying to figure out Canada.
What do you think? What does it mean to you to be Canadian? It's a big, broad...
We gotta ask.
Oh, good. What are you grateful for today?
Freedom, I suppose. But I don't know, living in a happy country with a good economic state.
Yeah. Very privileged, eh?
Yeah.
Fortunate.
Yeah, that's what I'd say, fortunate rather than privileged. I understand the concept of privilege.
Yeah.
Kind of seems like a too negative a connotation for what it is. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. I mean, 200 years ago, life would have looked a lot different here compared to what we have today, eh?
Oh.
1823.
God, yeah. I couldn't even tell you about 1823. In Canada, at least.
Our ancestors who maybe came from all over the world or lived here and probably didn't dream that our life could be like this today, hey?
Oh. No. Sorry, man. I'm not the guy for an interview.
Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it so much. Melting pot of ethnicities.
Ethnicities and cultures. So like, you know, we are friends. In jest, we say that, you know, whenever we sit together, it's like a UN meeting, because you have one representative from, you know, a lot of countries. So I think it is a celebration of that. You know, just look around and you see, you know, somebody talking in their languages, you know, different attires, different cultures.
What have you done today to celebrate Canada? What's your day look like today?
So we actually, I mean, to be very honest, we're Indians, right? And Canadians as well now. So for us, celebration means food. So we've been eating a lot of food since morning. Obviously, we came here in the afternoon after having a lot of food. And then, you know, just as I said, kids playing around. And to be honest, everything, to be honest. Like, grateful for everything. The place, the family,
good people,
food.
good environment, good food.
And Canadians mean very kind people. That's what we figured as well, yeah.
I think one person's salary goes to the mortgage and all this stuff. You can't save anything. Yeah, that is another point.
That's important.
That is,
Yeah. What do you think about us not being able to save? What do you think that means for our future or for our kids?
No, it's difficult, to be very honest. It's like for us, education is very important. Yeah. So we save all the time for like higher education and stuff. But here, you're not able to, because, you know, after paying the rent and the groceries, there's hardly anything left, you know.
Yeah, it is hard to live actually nowadays. See, the mortgage rate is increasing day by day, and inflation. Yeah. So it is hard actually.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Very
thank
nice.
you. Thank you very much. Happy Canada Day.
And I don't think it's the country it used to be, and I'm a little disappointed, to be honest, in the direction that it's going, and our leadership I don't think is what it should be, and I'm hoping that perhaps over the next little while we get a different leader and can take our country in a different direction.
Well, I lived in Asia for 6 years, and I can honestly say I am very proud to be a Canadian. It's nice to come home. We came home every summer, and clean air, clean streets. You know, you could walk around, and yeah, it was safe. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. The inflation and all of that going on.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, certainly the cost of living has risen dramatically, as has the cost of real estate. Has almost tripled since I moved here. And it's getting tougher and tougher just to make ends meet. Let's face it, whether it's utilities, groceries, the price of fuel. You know, Alberta's got fuel 41 cents cheaper than we do here in this province. And nevertheless, you know, I'm sure there are a lot worse places to live than Canada. Absolutely.
What do you think that's going to mean for our future with these high prices to be Canadian?
Well, I think it's going to continually be more challenging for kids coming out of university that have spent a lot of money to get their education, only to find out that they still can't make a living. Especially in Kelowna, there's not a lot of huge paying jobs like there might be in other cities, and probably a little discouraging if, you know, these kids coming out of university have to leave our city to go elsewhere to make a living.
Yeah.
And anything that you want to say to Canadians today?
Well, I would say let's keep our chin up and keep praying. I think, you know, God's in control. We want to continue to believe that, and hope that you know, in the future that starts to really reflect in what's coming.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
No, I'm good.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Well, this concludes another Canada Day here in Kelowna. What a night. Hundreds of people walked by and just felt the energy down here at the water. I guess what I learned today too is that a lot of us have a lot of commonalities. A lot of us are family-oriented people. A lot of us love and care for one another. It kind of makes me think. We're getting blown out here. Kind of makes me think too, like change the way I think too when I look at somebody, and I assume you know, they are who they are just based on their appearance. And when you actually get to talk to strangers and kind of see where they're coming from and what their values are, and it comes out very quick with a few quick questions. And Canadians are funny, man. People are funny as hell. Like, we've had some good conversations here today.
I got out of my comfort zone on my guest spot here on notTV. You know, just talking to people, interviewing people, and just putting myself out there is not Aaron, right? And it's been an honor and a privilege. So, so I want to thank everybody down at the Travis and the rest of the crew down there for giving me a shot and giving me an opportunity to just kind of speak and to just let things flow from the heart, no script. I know if we ever get doing this again that maybe we'll get out there a little bit and just kind of instigate strangers. So I grew a little bit today, and I'm growing right now as I'm rambling on. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Gratitude. We'll catch you on the flip side, and happy Canada Day. Woo! All my relations. Let's go.
You guys want to hear Rachel play a song? Yeah! Let's hear it! The beautiful Rachel? Yeah! 1, 2, Thanks for having us with the Peelers. We're from Montreal, Quebec. We're on tour right now, and we're with Stomp Records, and I hope you guys have a great rest of today, of Canada Day. Thank you for having us in your beautiful city here. It's nice to be back for the second time in a year.
For those of you who don't know, a freestyle is when you just start thinking of things off the top of your head and describing them as your brain is working, and hopefully your mouth can keep up. Sometimes it's the opposite way. You never know exactly how it's going to go. Alistair's seen me do this a couple hundred times. It's 50-50, so let's see how it goes tonight. This is the actor's version of doing ad-lib, let's call it that, all right? All right. I don't have a PhD, but when it comes to rhyming, I can spin those degrees. Like we stand on the lakeshore and there's wind in the trees. There's a lot of sinning MCs. There's a lot of synonym MCs. There's not a lot of spicy cinnamon MCs. Some of them lack flavor. Some of them lack cordial behavior. Some of them drink too much cordial and gin and lime in the morning and get too much off of their topic and lose their neighbors. At least respect for. That's what I kick them off the inspector deck for. How many Wu-Tang fans? That's the true clan. Watch as I bang these MCs around and they talk beaking me off like a toucan. Get it? Get it? Okay. I'm gonna quit explaining my punchlines, even though I only think of them one time. That's a fun line. After that, I try to find some fundamental reasons to try to talk on this microphone device until I start chilling these MCs down the vertebrae like blocks of ice. Shouts to Ice-T, shouts to Ice Cube, shouts out to people that get their brains washed over like Minute Lube. They can't keep up with the real rap MCs. They get lost in these seas. They get lost in these breezes. They get lost in this ocean. Sorry, that's a lake. I don't mean to take MCs over. That's a breakover. That's a takeover. That's how the fake get a makeover. I know some people that are estheticians. I know some people in higher and lower and middle positions. I know some people that live in different conditions. I know some people that love to talk, and I know some people that enjoy when they listen. I know some people that are dull and people that love to glisten. I know some people that like to get down in the dirty work and fix up the pistons. I know some people that don't even like to have a car. That's me. I walk everywhere I go. Some people think I'm bizarre. But that's fine. How far? 33 clicks? I can do that in like 2.5 days. I'll see you back in the mix. Check out my kicks. I only rock Adidas, the 3-stripe, the street height. That's right. I can be there as soon as I can. And if you still wear, then I'll be there. After that, I might need to get some new streetwear, at least some new footwear. Am I good there? Good. I'd like to appreciate that. These are facts. Rap music is very dope. Hip-hop culture is very important. In fact, 50 years we've been scoping the metaphysical. We've been talking about pop culture and put these words in people's mouths. We've been commercials and talked about, and people even doubted that we'd still be breaking out of the gates. 5 centuries later, sorry, 5 decades. Centuries are a long time, but I'll still trust that we'll be here. Watch this as we run this like a combine. Strong lines only manifest one thing. I only believe that there's, well, I'm not going to get into anything like that, but let's just say that I don't believe in kings. I believe in the metaphysical. I believe in the physical. I don't believe in the digital. I believe in the way that we talk and speak and shift in these words and make it all pivotal. Isn't this a physical place that we live on? A plane that may be gone, a plane that may be here tomorrow when we wake up and realize that our bygones are bygones and bygones and so on and so on. Hormones, estrogen, all these little bits and pieces that we put inside of our bodies that we drink and taste and eat every day and then recycle and give it back to the environment and call it professionalism. Now let's take a different position. I'm not a physician. I'm not even a veterinarian, but I'm a rhyme veteran. That makes me good with the letters. That's why I keep etching and sketching. Let's just say Fresh in Effect. Shout out to my homeboy Maestro Fresh West in Effect. One of the dopest albums ever made. I got to hang out with some of those cats 2 weeks ago. Some of the dopest rhymes and MCs that I've ever met in my life. Real Canadian underground hip hop helped scope my life. Kept me from having to deal with the strife. Let's just say I grew up in a small neighborhood that had some challenges unto itself. My mom always patted me on the back and said, son, all you gotta do is go speak your loud words and be yourself. Anyone doubt you, then question what you're doing. Anyone question what you're doing, then doubt their confluence. Doubt their influence, but never doubt your side of mind. Never doubt your side of line. Never doubt what's going on in your right and left side of your mind. Otherwise, you might have to incite something very fierce with the rhyme battle and make sure you leave these blind. I ain't poking and taking an eye for an eye. This ain't no Latin course. This is combative rap actualism that I put inside of this microphone and stand right here on the stage and make sure that I can try to bring it forth. I've been doing this my whole life. I'm from the island, but I still get to represent the North. Happy July 1st, y'all.